As with every project, they all escalate. So did this one. This one come to us as a rolling shell, simple instructions to build the car, and it didn't quite end up that way. Before we get into it, we know we've upset every Mopar guy. We've done everything we probably shouldn't do to a Mopar. So this car here, this is not one for the purists, but we like it. So let's have a look. The brief for this one was pretty simple. As I say, it came as a rolling shell. It was actually 3/4 painted. A few panels weren't, but it was almost there. And it was looking like an easy project. It was find a few missing parts, screw it together and drive it. Came with a little 318, standard wheels, standard diff, standard everything, no interior, a lot of glass. But you know, these things escalate. So once we got into it, once we learned a little bit more about these things, 73 Cuda E-body, we learned that these things twist. So we had to do a little bit of work, strengthen it up. We learned that the motors, there's a thing called a Hemi, and you kind of have to have a Hemi. So I went with a Hemi. And pretty much the owner of this car said one thing to me. He goes, Pete, all I want to do is jump in and push button start and not have to carburetors. So can I say around on, we'll just do a beep. I just want to jump in the car, push the button and drive the thing. It might be parked up somewhere for a couple of weeks and I don't have to worry about a carburetor. So straight away, that meant new motor. So 6.4 Hemi from a 2020 Scat Pack. We've gone with that 8-speed electronic transmission that come with it. And this was awesome. There's the guys over in the States, Cleveland Performance, picked the phone up, called them. They sent us a big box. Box turns up. Awesome. Pop the lid, fuel, battery, motor starts. Fantastic. Let's go. Order some engine mounts, order transmission mount, order some headers. Simple bolting kit, right? Click, click, click. Parts turn up, bolt it in, put it in. Motor trans sat way too low. It was hanging out like 2 inches, 50 mils below the car. So that was no good. Redo the engine mounts, redo the trans mounts, made our own, lift that up. That means trans tunnel. If you're doing the trans tunnel, might as well lift the tail shaft. Doing tail shaft, big engine, might as well do a diff. We're doing engine and diff, might as well add brakes. We've added new brakes, might as well add better suspension. Hence the snowball, hence the escalation of project cars. Once you do that, you might as well do the bodywork again, you might as well paint it again, you might as well trim it. And it keeps going. So let's have a look at what we've done. As soon as we had made the call to put more horsepower in this thing, do some Google, we'll learn about these cars. You know, we're no E-body Mopar guys. This is probably the first time I've actually touched. But there's heaps of information on the net, you know, we all do this. So we learned that these things needed to be reinforced. So it's simply done. We've added a section through here. We've connected the rear rail to the front rail. These areas in the corner that ties up with the leaf spring mount, I don't know what they're called. You know, some people call them torque boxes, whatever. We've plated all this in on the underside of the car, both in the rear and in the front, to tie all that together. We've added, you know, extra support for the seats. More on the seats later. There's a little bit of wiring for the seats. So, you know, why does a Mopar need wiring for the seats? We'll get back to that. Floor's all strengthened, added a lot more rigidity through the car. Up here in the top corner of the car, there's like a triangulated brace. It's pretty simple, folded sheet metal. We've boxed that in, made a new one, tied the corner of the firewall, you know, through here, through to the inner guard, tightened up that section so we can get the, whatever you want to call it, get the weight, strength transferred, whatever, through the front suspension, back into the car a lot better. As I say, we ditched the 318, needed to get rebuilt anyway, so no point putting effort into that. Gone straight to the 6.4 Hemi out of a 2020 Scat Pack. You know, super low mile car, I think it had about 5,000 miles. You know, kilometres, I don't know, what's that, like 7,000, something like that. Super low K engine, so we put that in, as I say, redo the engine mounts, lifted the motor up a little bit higher, make sure the bottom of our pan's lower than any cross members, you know, higher up, make sure they're flush to the seals, flush to anything, don't want that stuff hanging down. Had to rearrange the headers a little bit, so we did the header wrap. Now, from there, kind of got a little bit tricky. We had a few things to deal with. You got power steering. Later model engine uses a different power steering pump, completely different, so we had to convert it to the older style. Luckily, Holley has this beautiful kit, bolts onto that. You know, checked a few things, fresh water pump, checked the alternator. That was pretty easy, getting this motor in here. Now it's got a Hemi. Funny thing is, this motor, even though it's bigger, we've jumped up in cubes a whole bunch. It's like almost, I think it's like almost like 100 pounds lighter than the 318. So what's that, like 60 kilos, 65 kilos, somewhere right there. So we've actually got this big tube motor that's lighter, which is, I think that's pretty cool. We had to think about cooling, no point getting just the old repo radiator. So we just grabbed this whole unit, you know, with the condenser, AC on it, the whole lot, fans, We just get on Google, looked up what cars have the 6.4, 300C, Chrysler, perfect. Grabbed the whole unit, put in, easy to service, easy to access, easy to change. Hooked that up. We've got a few empty spots here and here, somewhere on here, somewhere like over the bench somewhere. We've got all the tanks, all the expansion tanks. So all the fluid tanks here, one over there, airbox, etc. They've all been fabricated. We just used 2mm aluminium plate, welded those up, powder coated those, so they're all this satin black look. Went from there. Probably, one more thing. I did say we've upset the Mopar guys. So here's probably one of the first things we've upset. Yes, the engine bay is satin black. And no, it is not colour. It is not a purist car. It is not a numbers matching car. It is not an authentic car. It's got a fucking Hemi in it. Like, late model Hemi. So, what's the matter? Satin black, modern looking engine bay, nice and clean, very easy to paint. As far as styling goes with this thing, like, ultimately it's a Restomod, it's got modern driveline, AC, power steer, digital dash, all that type of gear. But we want to keep that theme of a 70s muscle car. So we didn't want to venture too far. We didn't want to slam it, didn't want to put massive wheels on it, didn't want to shave all the lamps and tuck the bumpers and all that. Yes, we'll get the bumpers to fit nice, but let's keep it in the flavor. Let's pay respect to a 70s muscle car. So, go with the colour that's appropriate for the era. Beautiful gator grain roof. We'll keep some trims. The wheels are appropriate for the car, and the good old wide print BF Goodrich tyres, like 70s icon. So even though it's going to drive, feel, almost perform like a modern car, it still just has that 70s vibe, that 70s muscle car that makes these things great. This thing, it had discs in the front, so I think this might have been an option back then, or they might have been a big block thing, I don't know. Anyway, this car, it already had discs in the front. So we're ahead there, we kept those, they fit within the 15s, all good. In the rear, the diff we had, it was a drum brake diff, an older diff. We wanted to do something a little bit different. We got added horsepower, so we go, well, what happens if we stick a blower on this thing in the future? So let's go new diff. So as soon as we made a decision, new diff, we go, okay, what's the option? True to the car, we have to go with Dana. So Dana 60 diff, True Track, that's installed. Then we go, well, let's suck it in a little bit. So narrowed the diff up a little bit, fit some wider wheels under the rear, wider rubber meant relocate the springs. So we had to pull the springs in a little bit more as well. But look, at the end of the day, it's the best option that, why would you do this stuff without getting a bit of a fatter tyre and a bit of a stronger diff under there? So, that's what we did. So not to get carried away and refabricate the whole thing, we wanted to keep it pretty simple, pretty effective, but pull the spring in to get a wider wheel. I don't know if you want to call it cheated, but we did it really simple. So right here, the leaf spring hanger, you can see there, all we did is offset the spring from the original mount on the body just to gain an extra inch, and that gave us the tighter location on the diff, which was narrowed. And in the front mount, it's got like this big plate that just bolts to the body. So we just fabricated a new one of them. Again, just offset that spring an inch over, picked up some more space. Then while we're under there, we thought, well, let's upgrade the shocks. So go some adjustable shocks. Have to put a sway bar, anti-roll bar, big sway bar in the front, just to try and pick up a little bit extra under there. Bodywork is one thing, we're pretty happy doing. So, as I say, this thing was painted. Some of the front panels were not. However, once we got into it, we realised we could probably tidy it up a little bit more. So it was freshly blasted, freshly epoxied, fresh paint job on the body shell when we got it. So we just made the call to work over the top of it. Well, not work on top, but work with what was there and redo it and really sharpen it up a little bit more. So that meant we just had to align the doors a little bit better, rework the rear quarters, but big thing was we had to re-gap all through this front section. The front guards to the front doors, gaps were pretty average, so a little bit of cutting and welding through there, lined up the front, lined up the hood, and then just, polyester block, prime, sand, and paint. So at least it's a little bit neater now, a little bit tighter gaps, sharper lines, everything else. We still have a little bit more to do. We're going to do a little bit of satin black work across the top, add some graphics later on, really get that 70s vibe going again with those cool, unique graphics that the Mopars had. Something really exciting about this car is the wiring. We've had Chad from Motorsport Wiring doing this, and he has hooked us up. Beautiful wiring. He's done a whole loom, mapped out the whole system, and he's running it all through the car, setting it all up, making it really beautiful. One thing that's super impressive, again, first time I've ever seen this done, is a little PDM unit. This is the brain of the whole thing, and it's amazing what this does. Every fuse, every relay, voltage, amperage, everything is all done through this, and it's all programmable. Wiring is so neat and compact, like the loom is just nothing. It's all TEP cell wiring, tiny, beautiful, no joins in the whole lot. So really excited to see how this comes together. In case you're asking about the colour, 1970 Mopar genuine colour, J5 lime. Even though it's a 73 Cuda, we really love this colour. It's got just the right amount of lime, the right amount of pastel. Direct gloss, solid colour, 3 coats, bang, done. We did this one in De Beers because lucky for us, the beer training centre is just down the road, and they were very, very generous, and they let us run it down and paint it in there. So fantastic support from them on this one. All right, trim. We've been collecting all of our stuff. You know, we were lucky enough to find some new old stock door trims, rear-quarter inner trims. You know, center console needs a little bit of work. We sent the dash out. We reshaped the dash, sent that down to Dash Doctor. He's reskinned it. So we've got to fit this dash up, get this back in. Beautiful job. All the seats are beautiful. Darren stitched up, looked after us on that. Now, one thing. I did mention in that car, we've got reinforced seat mounts in the floor, you saw those, and we added wiring for the seats. Why is that? Because these are not Mopar seats. Yes, they look like the original silhouette of a Mopar seat. They've got that same form, that same shape. However, these are actually out of a Porsche. I don't know, like a 928, 924, something like that. 70s, early 80s Porsche. Very, very similar shape. However, a little bit of extra bolstering, and they're electric, so they're adjustable. So hence that Restomod car, you know, instead of having these old clunky things, we can jump in, have that little bit extra, little bit of modern convenience, modern comfort, and enjoy the car. All right, so look, thanks for checking it out. I mean, the Cuda's been sitting around a little bit, and if you've done one of our bodywork classes over the last maybe 12, 18 months, probably would have worked on this car in the class. Like this is a real car that we did in our bodywork classes. We've continued building the car. It's been not stagnant, it's shelved a little bit for the last couple of months. We've been collecting parts, just trying to get parts, trying to find them, bring them all in. We've got a couple more things that are on order, they're coming in, but right now, you know, we're super keen to get into this, get it done. I mean, if you guys like this, let us know and we'll do more of this stuff. We've got quite a few projects on the go and we'll just share as we go, like, you know, we're building these things like you guys are at home. So we'll see you next time.